Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the second edition of the Horns Haven Show, brought to you by Mark Rogers TV on the SEC channel and on the Texas channel here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. I really appreciate it, guys. Share this with your friends, family, neighbors, coworkers, whoever you want to share it with. Get them to hit the like button as well. And also, guys, if you're going to go to a sporting event and March Madness just kicked off, if you're in Charlotte, Indianapolis, any of the locations of the tournament, head there to ticketsmarter.com and get a discount. Type in code BIG for $10 off a purchase of $100 or more, and type in code BIG20 for $20 off a purchase of $300 or more. Like I said, that works for basketball just as much as it does for football, just as much as it does for volleyball. Whatever you want to use Ticket Smarter for, it will work for you. Just type in those codes to save yourself some money. If you don't want to save the money, guess what? Get the money back and spend it at the game on concessions, because those are expensive. But do that, guys. And again, subscribe to the SEC channel. I am here every Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time talking Texas football, a little bit of SEC. Today's SEC, Texas. We are finally going to get to them in their win totals. So please do that, guys. Please share this out. We're trying to grow. And Mark will be joining me starting in April. So I really appreciate it, guys. Please hit that like button and subscribe. I'm your host, Matthew Miller. And we have gone through win totals, guys, of 12 out of the 16 teams in the SEC. We have 4 teams left. We're going to run down real quick and give a recap. And, guys, these are not my official predictions. We are months out from the season. I'm going to put this on record in stone, July. We'll also do what we did with the Big 12 last year and break down QB rooms, wide receiver rooms, running back rooms, all of that, and rank them and see my predictions for it as well. So let's talk about the SEC. Mississippi State, I have them under 4.5 wins. Florida, I have them under 5.5 wins. Oklahoma, I have them under 7.5 wins. And they are one of those teams for me, guys, that's a -3 team. If you've heard Mark talk about this, guys, there's +3 and -3 teams. In every conference, you're going to have a team win 3 less games than they did before. And you're going to have teams that lose win 3 more games than they did the year before. And you're going to have about 4 to 6 of those. So 5 on average. I believe right now, I have a couple. OU is one of them. Kentucky, I have over 6.5. They do not meet that criteria. I have Alabama under 9.5. They meet that criteria. I have them with 8 wins. That is 2 teams, guys. Auburn, I have over 7.5. I have at 9 wins. So that is 3 teams, guys. South Carolina, 5.5 wins. I'm going under. Arkansas, I'm going under 5.5. Ole Miss, I'm going over 9.5 with 10-2. Vanderbilt, I'm going under 2.5. 2 wins for them. And then LSU over 9.5 with 10-2. A couple of these surprised me, but again, this is very early. It's just based off the knowledge that I have, and I'll gain more knowledge as I go. I have a decent amount already of most SEC teams, but I'll gain more as I look in deep to these rosters and I looked over the schedules. And so that's 3 teams. And honestly, guys, I'm stuck on 3 right now. I'm not going to add any more to that +3 or -3 list out of the 4 teams I have left. The 4 teams I have left are Tennessee, Georgia, Texas, and Texas A&M. We will get into that in a second. Again, please hit that like button and subscribe down below. I am there, Joey. Hey, what's up? I'm not a Texas fan at all, but this is one of the best shows on this network. I appreciate it. You have OU -7.5. I do, Joey. They lose a lot. They lose most, if not all, of their offensive line. So I fully expect Oklahoma to be under. And then you're bringing in Jackson Arnold starting his first year. Guys, look what Quinn Ewers did in his first year. He wasn't that good. We went 8-5 that year, 8-4 in the regular season in a worse conference in the Big 12. And I think Quinn Ewers is more talented than Jackson Arnold. And he had a more talented team. That guy had Bijan Robinson in the backfield. Oklahoma does not have that. Oklahoma doesn't have a great wide receiver. They don't have a great running back. I think Nick Anderson is good. I think he's if you're ranking on a letter grade, he's a B- college football wide receiver at this point. So yes, I have Oklahoma at 7 wins. I think they're 7-5. And Joey, I said, you're going to have to pick 4 to 6 teams in a conference to do it. Oklahoma just meets that criteria for me, because could I see them winning 8 games? Absolutely. Why not knock them down 1 and say 7-5, especially when Vegas thinks the smart money is actually on the under. So that's why I have Oklahoma at 7 wins. Could they get 8? Absolutely, they could. Vegas knows what they're doing. That's why it's at 7.5. But you're going to have to pick some surprise teams that are going to win 3 more games they did and have 3 more losses. I mean, Georgia, we're going to get to them in a second. There's a world where that team goes 9-3. They went 12-0 in the regular season. They have a hard schedule. They could go 9-3. We'll get to that in a minute. I agree, but coming from you, I have to wonder how much the rivalry. Yeah, but I thought Oklahoma was going to be. I thought they'd win 10 games last year, and I was right. They won 10 games. I think I said 10 or 9. So I was either off by 1 or I was right. I'm fair with Oklahoma. The only week I really hate them is the week we play them. They're not in my brain for most of the time because honestly, like they don't win national champ. They don't win national championships. Do they have good regular seasons? Absolutely they do. But we have the more recent national championship. Hell, we have the 2 more recent national championship appearances, and we have a college football and the most recent college football playoff game. So they're a great regular season team. But Mark went through it a couple weeks ago. Like they're a better program than Texas. They are, especially over the past 25 years. But Texas performs better in the postseason. And I think Oklahoma is a 7-5 team. At best, I could see 8-4. If they do go 8-4, I think that's a really good job by Venables. I think that means you have the quarterback of the future as well. To me, if you go 7-5, I think that's what you should go. So I'm not firing Brent Venables for that. Anything worse than 7-5, I'm firing Brent Venables. Brent Venables cannot go 6-6 in the SEC next year. He can absolutely not go 6-6. He has to be fired at that point. I don't know who they would target, but it'd be very interesting to say the least. Now, let's jump into these over-under win totals, and we will start out with Tennessee. I'm going to pull up their schedule real quick, and we will go over that. Tennessee, actually, guys, is predicted. It surprised me. Is predicted at 8.5 over-under wins, and I thought that was high. But then I got into the schedule, and it's not a hard schedule, guys. It really isn't. It kind of shocked me how easy the schedule was, in my opinion. So let's jump into that. Pull up this banner real quick. Over under 8.5, and we'll share the screen. There we go. Share. Okay, you guys can see that, hopefully. Yes, you can. Okay, sweet. Okay, so Tennessee starts out with Chattanooga. I'm going to give them a win. I assume they win that game. If they don't win that game like they did a couple years ago, I think they played Georgia Southern to start out the year, then you're going to have all sorts of issues. And of course, then they play NC State at a neutral site game. I don't know what to expect from NC State. They're usually a solid football team. I don't know what to expect from Tennessee. Guys, when we get to the end of this, you're going to be like, wow, that's a little bit high on Tennessee. And I would agree, but then I looked at the schedule. There's 2 teams that I'm going to go through today in Tennessee and Texas A&M. They could go 7-5, 6-6. They could go 10-2, and it would not shock me because of the schedule. The schedule here isn't too bad. Kent State, they win that game. So we're talking 3-0 to start, and I'm going to actually give Oklahoma a win here. I think this is the first SEC game at home against an unproven quarterback in Nico. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the last name. I think they lose this game. So you're sitting at 3-1, going to Fayetteville, Arkansas. I think Arkansas is one of the worst teams in the SEC. I believe I had them at 3-9 when I predicted it last week. I am going to have Tennessee winning that game. So Tennessee is sitting at 4-1 with the rivalry game versus Florida. It's at home. That's where you're going to see the theme of this, guys. A lot of Tennessee's hard games are at home. I'm taking them to win. So you're talking, what is that? 5-1 versus Alabama at home. If you watched last week, you know I'm low on Alabama going in next year. I'm low compared to Alabama standards. If Alabama goes to 8-4, they're going to think the world's on fire. 8-4 in the first year of a coach is not bad. I think Alabama loses this game. I think Tennessee wins. So you're sitting at 5-1. I think you beat Kentucky. You're 6-1. I can't believe I'm about to say this. You beat Mississippi State. You're 7-1 going into Athens, Georgia, and you get the doors blown off you. Georgia's going to win that game. You're 7-2 right there. UTEP 8-2. Vanderbilt, actually, that's going to be 10-2. So I have Tennessee with that schedule, and I'll go back down real quick. I have Tennessee at 10-2. I have Tennessee at 10-2. I think the lowest this team could possibly go, let's say they lose to North Carolina State, possibly. I don't see them losing to Arkansas. I don't see them losing to Florida at home. Could they lose to Alabama? Yes. So from 10-2, that makes you 8-4 right there. At home, they're not losing to Kentucky. 8-4, I think is the bottom for this team. I think 8-4 is the worst you're going to do. I have them at 10-2, so I'm a little bit higher than most people. They went 8-4 last year. They don't meet the +3 here. It's hard. They're not going to meet the -3. There's no possible world where this team meets the -3. They're not going 5-7. I'm going to have them at 10-2. So I would take the over of 8.5. I think they can easily get to 9. Basically, to me, this over-under comes down to North Carolina State. If they beat North Carolina State, they're going over the 8.5 for sure. So it rides on that. I'm going to go 10-2, and I'm going to go the over here on Tennessee, guys. Get to your comments real quick. What's up, Longhorn Nation? Thank you, Jackson, for being here. Hit that like button and subscribe. So we're going to stop sharing that, and then we're going to pull up Georgia's 2024 football schedule. They are set at 10.5 wins over under. And I mean, that's par for the course for Georgia. Georgia actually is part of the teams in the SEC. Texas, Georgia, and Ole Miss all have over 10.5. I believe, and those are the three that have that. And then there's three other teams: LSU, Alabama, and Missouri all have 9.5. So I mean, there's a lot of they're predicting basically half the conference to win 9+ games. I don't see that happening, but we'll see, guys. I could be wrong on that. Let's go ahead and go to Georgia's schedule real quick. Share that out with you guys. Like I said, 10.5 is the number. Share my screen in a second. Here we go. Georgia. No, I don't want that. Okay. So you start out with Clemson. I have no idea what to expect from Clemson. If you guys were here for my preseason last year, I had Clemson in the national championship game. Boy, was I wrong. I was 2 out of 4 on my college football playoff predictions. I said Michigan, Clemson, Penn State, Alabama. Alabama and Michigan got in, and I actually think I had Alabama playing Michigan and Michigan beating them. So I was 100% right on that. I had Michigan in the national championship game versus Clemson. I had Clemson winning the national championship because I was high on Cade Klubnik. I predicted him to win the Heisman. So either I was a year too early or I was completely wrong. We'll find out this year. I think Clemson loses this game. I think it's probably closer than most people think. I don't know what the early line is. My guess is probably 8.5 Georgia. Since it's basically a home game, I hate that this is called neutral site because it's not. It's in Atlanta. This is a home game. I think Georgia wins this game. Tennessee Tech win. At Kentucky win. Bye week, Alabama. I am going to give them a win. And this is where we talk about, guys, they could go 9-3. Worst case scenario, they lose this game. But I'm going to give them a win, and we'll go about the worst case scenario after I'm done with what I think they're going to go. Auburn at home. If this was on the road again, like last year, I think Georgia actually loses this game because I think Auburn's a better team, and I think Georgia is going to be a slightly worse team in most aspects next year. That doesn't mean they can't win the national championship because, honestly, if they didn't have an off day versus Alabama, there's a good chance they still do win the national championship. But they beat Auburn at home. They beat Mississippi State, and that sets up a showdown of 6-0 Georgia at my Texas Longhorns. To me, guys, I think there's 2 regular season games that are now conference games that are basically going to be that are going to be de facto playoff games that are going to let you know who is going to win the national championship. I think this is one of them, and I think Ohio State and Oregon is the other one. Your national championship is going to come from Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, and Georgia. If I had to bet them or the field, I'm betting them. Period. End of story. Those are the 4 teams. I think those are the 4 best teams. If I had to have a dark horse, I believe I brought it up with Mark. I said Ole Miss, but I don't really believe in them because of Lane Kiffin. I think Georgia wins this game. I think it's a really good game, but I think Georgia does win this game, so they are still undefeated. Bye week, then they play their rivalry game versus Florida, and I think that takes a lot of an emotional toll because then you go on the road, and I think you lose to Ole Miss. This is the only loss I'm going to have for Georgia in the regular season, and it's going to be at Ole Miss. You play Tennessee, you win that game, you destroy UMass. Obviously, the de facto bye week before your rivalry game versus Georgia Tech, and you win that game. So I think Georgia goes 11-1. Like I said, they could go 9-3. You lose to Ole Miss, you lose to Texas, and you lose at Bama. All 3 of those games on the road, all possibly could lead the losses. They could be 9-3. They could be a -3 team. There's a world where that exists, and I still think Georgia makes the playoff at that point. Would that be a disappointing year for Georgia? Regular season wise, yes. But if you go on to win the national championship with 3 losses, no one's going to care. So it depends, honestly, if they get into the postseason and then win. Now, if they miss the postseason in general in a 12-team playoff at 9-3, then I think it gives doubts, real doubts to people about what Kirby Smart is doing. Yes, he's won back-to-back national championships, but there's a real possibility in a world, in a perfect world, I guess you could say, if Alabama doesn't have John Mechie and Jamison Williams out, that Georgia loses that national championship game, and we're possibly looking at one national championship for Georgia. So 9-3 is a possibility. That's the absolute worst this team's going to go. I have them at 11-1, and I would take the over of 10.5 wins because obviously 11 is more than 10.5. I will stop sharing that with you guys and get your comments on that. Georgia will go over 10.5 wins, that's for sure. Like I said, Jackson, I think 9-3 is the absolute worst that Georgia will go. I am at 11-1. So I would take the over as well. Again, guys, please hit that like button and please subscribe down below. Georgia, Texas will be a fun matchup. I think it's the second best in-conference matchup of the season. I actually think Ohio State and Oregon is going to be a better game. But I think it's going to be fun. I think those are the 4 best teams in the country. And I think your national championship will be decided between those 4 teams. And I think you're going to get a preview of playoff games. So it's going to be really fun next year. It really is. It will be weird not seeing Georgia, Florida on CBS this season. Also, I will say this. I'm not a gigantic fan of the 12-team playoff, but think about this, guys. If Georgia and Texas were to play in this same game last year, the loser could possibly be left out of the playoff. Like, that's crazy to me that one of the 4 best teams could be left out. Same with Ohio State and Oregon. They lose that game, they could possibly be left out if they trip up one other time. So that is the positive side of a 12-team playoff. I personally believe 8 was the best way to go, but I'm fine with 12. I'm not cool with anything more than that. I don't like the 4-team. I don't like the 6-team, but we will talk about that later. Now, next up, guys, we will go to a rivalry game that will be played finally again. Texas and Texas A&M. We're going to go to those Aggies in College Station and check out their schedule. Over under here is 8.5, which is obscenely high to me, guys. I just don't understand that. You lose your coach, you lose most of your roster from that insane all-time recruiting class. I just don't see it happening. 8.5 is way too high for me. And that's what I thought. Now, the schedule isn't the hardest. So this is the good thing. And also, Mike Elko is a better coach than Jimbo Fisher. Yes, Jimbo Fisher has a national championship, but right this minute, this second, today, Mike Elko is a better coach. I think he will get more out of this roster than Jimbo Fisher did. And that's the thing. So the roster got worse, but your coach got better. I think in my predictions, you're going to see what I say about that. It's going to be basically, I think they're going to do the exact same thing they did last year. And if you remember, they went 7-5 last year. I think 7-5 is probably where they're going to be at this year. We'll jump into this. Like I said, they went 7-5 last year, 8.5 wins over under, which is crazy. You bumped them up a win with a new coach and basically a new quarterback. Connor Wegman did not play that much last year, guys. So it's going to be interesting. At Notre Dame. This is the game. You will know first week if you bet this over under if you're going to win or lose. If you bet the over on this and they lose this game, they're not getting to 9 wins. They're not. There's no possibility on the schedule if they lose this game, they're getting to 9 wins. If they lose this game, they're going to, at best, they're finishing 8-8 or 8-4, sorry. So I think they're going to lose this game. I think Notre Dame, when we talk about those dark horse teams, I think Ole Miss, Notre Dame are right there in that second tier of teams, right behind Ohio State, Texas, Oregon, and Georgia. So it's going to be very interesting. I think they lose this game. I think they absolutely kick the crap out of McNeese. I didn't even know they were with Cowboys. Congrats on the basketball team, though. You made the NCAA tournament. You're going to get killed at Kyle Field come September 7th at Florida. I think Florida's going to be the same team they were last year with just an insanely hard schedule. They're going to win this game. That makes Texas A&M 2-1. Texas A&M will win that game. They play Bowling Green at Kyle Field. They'll win that game. They're 3-1. Then you play in Jerry World versus Arkansas, and there's a good chance Sam Pittman is fired after this game, 4-1. Here's another type of game, guys, where it could go either way just because you play at Kyle Field. Listen, I hate A&M. I might have more hate for A&M than Oklahoma, but that is a hell of a hard place to play. And I think Missouri's a very good football team, but I'm going to take Let me see what I wrote down here. I believe, yeah, I took Missouri to win this game. I think it's a coin flip. It honestly is a coin flip. I'm going to take Missouri, but we'll see. Off, then you go to Mississippi State. You're going to win that game. They're not that good. You play LSU. I think you lose that game. I think LSU is slightly better than you, and it's going to, I know it's at home. That's the thing, too. These guys get very lucky. All their hard games are at home, so that is the possibility of them going 9-3. You play at South Carolina. I think you win that game. You play New Mexico State. You win that game. You're looking good here, guys. You are, what is that? I believe 7-2 or 3 before going in there. Let's see. Loss, Missouri. I'm actually going to name Missouri, yeah, a loss there and a loss to LSU. So you're at 3 losses. Because I do have them at 7-5. And like I said, this is a coin flip to me if they go 8-4 or 7-5. New Mexico State, you win. And then I think you lose the last 2 games of the season. I think you lose to Auburn, and I think you lose to Texas. They could beat us. 100% they could. But I think they lose. And the reason I have them losing to Auburn is because I think they're going to be looking ahead to that Texas game. And I'm going to take Texas in that game. So I have them at 7-5. I could see 8-4. Absolutely, I could see 8-4. There's no chance on this God's green earth this team goes 9-3. I think at best you split between Auburn and Texas. So that's 1 loss. I think at best you split between LSU and Missouri. That's 2 losses. And I think you're going to lose a game you're probably not supposed to lose because it's Mike Elko's first season. So I guess I could see 9-3, guys. That's the best case scenario is 9-3. I think the worst case scenario is 6-6. But I'm gonna have them at 7-5. I could, like I said, I could see 8-4. I think 7-5 and 8-4 are the most realistic. That's why I just don't understand the 8.5 number. I'm gonna give them 7.5. Or 7-5. I think they could win 8, like I said, and that may be my final prediction when we get into June. But I'm going under. They're not winning 9 games, so I'm gonna go under on Texas A&M. And the next team that we'll be talking about is my Texas Longhorns. But before that, we'll jump into your comments real quick. I heard A&M was trying to slide into the Big Ten, running from Texas again. Yeah, I heard those rumors too. I don't know if they are true. It's going to be very interesting. If that happens, Texas should absolutely make fun of A&M every chance they can get. That is pathetic, running away, especially trying to dodge this game for the best part of a decade. So that's a joke to me if they decided to do that, Bazoo. And please hit that like button and subscribe. I know you're new here. So let's talk about Texas now, guys. Over under 10.5. I think it's a bit high when I saw it and it came out. They could go over. I think, honestly, best case scenario is 11-1. I wouldn't, if I'm betting the under, and you'll see why. Colorado State win at Michigan. This is a toss-up game. Michigan definitely is worse, but that is a hard place to play. It's probably going to be 40 to 45 degrees there, and Texas is not used to playing in that cold of temperatures. So I'm going to take Texas, but they could lose this game. UTSA, we will win that game. ULM will win that game. Mississippi State will win that game. So you're talking about 4-1 through your first 5. Looking good. But the problem is, guys, if they lose another game, they're going under. So this is why I'm probably going to bet the under. Oklahoma, I believe you win that game. Oklahoma is starting Jackson Arnold in his first Red River rivalry. I believe new quarterbacks in that game in the last 22 are like 4-18. So I just don't see him winning that game. I think Texas has more experience. And they, after losing last year when they shouldn't have, in my opinion, I think they were the better team. I think Texas wins this game. Could they lose this game? Absolutely. It's a rivalry game. They could absolutely lose this game. And then they play Georgia. You already know how I feel about that. They're going to lose. So that is 1 loss, guys. Or no, sorry, I had us beating Michigan and us beating Oklahoma. So we're 6-0 going into that game. We are 6-1 now, and then we go to Vanderbilt. I'm hoping to be there on October 26th. I think we absolutely kicked the snot out of Vanderbilt. So that would put us at what? 7-1, guys, with 4 games remaining. And the problem I have here, it's your first year in the SEC, and this is honestly what's getting to me. I keep hearing SEC is much better, SEC is much better, SEC much better, and it is. That is why in my heart of hearts, I cannot take us to go 11-1. I think out of these next 4 games, you're going to lose one of them. Arkansas, you're not going to. I'm just going to say right now, Florida, Kentucky, Texas A&M, the loss is going to come from there. Arkansas embarrassed Steve Sarkisian in his first big game at Texas. It was week, I believe, 3 or 4, and we went there and they rushed for over 300 yards. They beat us by 3 touchdowns. I think we destroy Arkansas in Fayetteville. I think we return the favor. I think we beat them by at least 17 points, so 3+ scores. So I'm not going to pick us to lose in that game. Florida, I just don't think at that time, I think they would have quit on Billy Napier if he's still there. And if he's not there, you're playing under an interim head coach. And a lot of those guys are looking towards the transfer portal. So I'm going to take Texas to win that game. So that leaves 2 games left. And I already said I would take us to beat A&M. Guys, I think Kentucky is one of those teams that's going to surprise people. I think they're a 7-5, 8-4 team, and I think they're going to catch Texas here. I think you're going to catch Texas in between 2 rivalry games at Arkansas and at Texas A&M, and I think Kentucky is going to pull off an upset and beat Texas. That is what I said a month ago. Like I said, I want to update this every month, see how I'm going, and I'm still feeling that. I think Texas is a 10-2 team. I think their losses are to Georgia and Kentucky. I think at worst, I see 3 losses because I think you're going to split between Michigan and Oklahoma, so that'd be 1 loss. At worst, this is at worst. I think Georgia, Texas A&M, and Kentucky, you could lose 2 out of 3 of those. So that'd be 9-3. I don't see anything worse than 9-3 to get us to what we would have to do be a -3 team, which is 8-4. I don't see that unless something catastrophic happens, like multiple injuries. Even if Quinn Ewers gets hurt, I fully expect Arch Manning to slide in and be able to get us 9 wins. So I think 9-3 to 11-1 is possible. I'm going with 10-2 in the between the two. And I'm going to go under 10.5 wins. So Texas goes under 10.5 wins. And that does it, guys, for the SEC, the first close look at it. Like I said, I will update this as we get further in the season. I will put it in concrete late June, mid-July, most likely. I'll probably say mid-July. And like I said, Mark will be joining us going forward in April. So guys, please hit that like button, subscribe, stick around for that. Those are your over-under win totals for the SEC. The 4 teams we did today were Tennessee. I predicted the over. Georgia, I predicted the over. A&M, I predicted the under. And Texas, I predicted the under, if I can pull that up. And guys, if you're going to go one of these games during the fall or a basketball game during March Madness, go to ticketsmarter.com. Type in code BIG for $10 off a purchase of $100 or more, and type in code BIG20 for $20 off a purchase of $300 or more. I really appreciate it, guys. So I've gone through 16 teams. We'll update this probably every other month, honestly, and then I will lock these in July, along with who's got the best QB room in the SEC, who's got the best running back room, who's got the best defensive line room, who's got the best coaches. So please hit that like button, subscribe, and stick around for all of that. Mondays, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Horns Haven, guys. That is SEC win totals. Hook 'em, guys.